So, ladies and gentlemen, dear guest minister, I would like to welcome you all at this discussion at the occasion of publishing a very interesting and very important book. Book that is called Jsou, Vaťácký, vývar. The authors should explain what is the name about, and we had some discussions already on the social networks whether the translation is good or not. I think it's very good because there is also our translator, Mr. Molchanov, whom we would like to welcome as well. And thank you for your participation. There will be also time for questions during this meeting. And at the beginning, I would like to present you all our guests. So there is Mr. Pekka Kallioniemi, author of the book, and very important personality fighting above all Russian disinformation in last years. And I guess that many of you follow him on social networks, and if you don't do so, I recommend you to do it. His colleague is Morten Hammeken, Danish. Pekka is Finnish. Morten is Danish, and we all know that Baltic countries and the Nordic countries, all this group, has very clear opinion about the threat from Russia and Russian disinformation. So it's very important to have them here. For me, it's a special pleasure to have a chance in these difficult days and busy days, definitely, to welcome here Mrs. Eva Decroix, Minister of Justice of the Czech Republic.
Thank you.
And Johana Hovorková is the editor-in-chief of Forum 24, newspaper we definitely know. And I would like also to thank her personally and Forum 24 for co-organization of this event and all events around this book, because there will be many interviews and articles informing Czech public about the book and the topic the book itself. And the last, our interesting guest is Andrej Fiskovec, Belarusian influencer, I would say, a man who is very active on social media, informing public about development of the Russian aggression and conflict in Ukraine above all, and he also has a lot of experience with the topics we are about to discuss. So that's the presentation, and I would probably give the floor now to Pekka Kallioniemi to present the book. Here you go.
All right. Hey, everyone. First of all, I hope you don't mind. We're in Czechia, so
Publicly, never mind.
So. Anyway, that's the book that me and Morten we wrote it. It's based on a social media series called Jsou, which exposes Russian propagandists, so-called vatniks, and their narratives. And what is a vatnik? I think that's probably the first thing that should be explained. It's somebody who supports and or promotes Kremlin narratives. So basically, Putin's vision is what they promote and or support. Why is there this distinction? Is because sometimes people promote and spread these narratives even though they don't even believe in them. It could be they get paid to do it or whatever reason. But also there's a lot of people who actually believe in these lies. And that's where the name comes from. The soup in the name comes from a random Twitter user who told me that I need a hashtag. And he told me that I should use soup because it's a nice name. And I said, okay, why not? I went with that. And I thought, okay, soup, if you look at the book, it has kind of like these short stories, short biographies of people, profiles. And I think it's like a soup. You digest it very quickly and it's easy to read, in my opinion. So that's the origin of the name. And maybe I stop here and we can continue.
Sure. Well, I will just add a couple of words on top of what Pekka has said, because Pekka and I have come from Finland and Denmark this week because we have written this book about Russian disinformation, which has just been published in Czech. We're very happy to see it published here. But when I read about your upcoming elections, I must say it couldn't have come at a better time, or perhaps it comes maybe 2 months too late, because the situation is not looking fantastic, as the famous Ukrainian scientist Dyatlov famously says in Chernobyl, not great, not terrible, and then 5 minutes later the reactor core explodes. So this is also the situation in much of Europe, unfortunately, because we are currently being flooded not with radioactive nuclear waste, but with disinformation. And that can be no less toxic. Here in Czechia, I just read today that the 16 biggest disinformation super spreaders churn out as much content as all the traditional media combined. So we are, and when I say we, the people fighting against this, hopefully all of us here, we are losing the information war. And the first step in turning that process around is educating ourselves about what is actually happening when we turn on our computer. So Pekka and I very much hope that, and of course the brilliant Czech publishers, that Vaťácký Soup can be part of this antidote. So we're here to talk about the book and answer your questions, and we have some topics that we are going to go into concerning press freedom and censorship and so on. So some hard topics.
Yeah, definitely so. Thank you, thank you, Martin, and you are absolutely right, because we are here in a pre-election time. Next Saturday, this time we will know the results. And you are also right that it was one of the reasons why we thought it would be good to publish this book, because the people should know more about the influence of Russian propaganda and all the narratives, as you say, that tries to influence the situation not only in the Czech Republic, but in many countries in Europe and even in the USA, and in some countries they are pretty successful, unfortunately. We will see next Saturday how successful they were in the Czech Republic, but this is also one of the reasons that why we invited the time. I am very happy that she accepted the participation, at least brief, because then she has to leave a bit earlier because of some other event of Ministry of this government, because the government was under high pressure from all the situation concerning Russian and following Russian aggression, because it has very difficult consequences for the development in the Czech Republic. I mean, prices of energy and inflation and tension in the society and increase of Russian disinformation and everything. And we appreciate the activity of this government. So I would be glad if these days before elections and Mrs. Decroix could say us few words about her opinion about this very difficult problem concerning disinformation and freedom of speech in the Czech Republic.
Thank you. Happy to be here with you, and it's really pity that it's maybe too late now for this book, not because of the result of the election, but I think that every week we do not have occasion to speak about Russian disinformation is 1 week too late. I will start a bit differently. For us as politicians, it's very difficult to speak about Russian propaganda, because every time we try to address in the streets with our electors, with the population, the fact that there is Russian propaganda, it looks that we are not able to defend results of our politics. We do not understand the people, so we try to find some other reason why it is like this. In Czech Republic today, we have the feeling, I suppose that not here in this room, but in general, there is a feeling of the bad mood. Nothing is good, nothing works, everybody is poor. But after you are in the country, you speak with the people, you see that they have like everything. But if I try as politician, as candidate in the election, I try to explain them, look what you have. You have house, you have nothing above you, no war, you live in a very secure country. They don't trust me. They don't trust me because I'm alone. And every day they have full email and full social media of the description that nothing works in the country. So it's very difficult to prove the contrary is the reality. And today, I have the personal experience with the meeting with one man who was very aggressive, very behind something which we may call a normal human communication on social media. And thanks to my friend who know how to work with social media, they were able to discover who's behind anonymous profile. So I called the guy, I invited him to the ministry. It was a very sexistic, very, how I would call diplomatically, nice, very brutal attack, a brute attack on my person. And now, this morning in my office, there was sitting quite normal guy. Completely, I'm sorry, I didn't know that now I feel really bad, you know, all my family now is shaming, I'm sorry, I didn't think it like this, but you know, and now he starts to tell me all the sources, pro-Russian sources, all this Sputnik, all these other sources of the Russian propaganda. And I know from the analysis we did on this guy before that he's every day, he's connected on everyday basis on all these Russian disinformation. And now you see, this is, and now I'm coming to your question, you have normal person, father of the family, living somewhere in the countryside, quite normal on when you were here with him personally, but he's completely under the attack and completely brainwashed by the Russian propaganda. And now where is the barrier of the what I may ask him to read or not to read if we have the freedom? And I know that you will not like my answer, but I think that the only way is at some point to be able to define that some sources of information are against our democracy because it's not normal media. We have legislation on the media. We have many regulation. But what happens on the social media? It's there is no regulation. You have no other public space. No other public space. If I understand public space, like the platform where the people meet and communicate, try to find other place where there is no regulation. In the street, in the school, in the pub, in the print media, everywhere. But on social media, we have no regulation. So I think at some point we should be able, for our defense, to limit the access of the guy, as I met this morning, to the source of the information, because after we are not able to communicate on the same language. We live on the different world.
Thank you. And even worse, if I am not mistaken, this man used to be a member of your own party.
Today he's extremist party.
Yeah, no, but he used to be, because what happens today is that many people we knew years ago, but we were on the same side of the barricade politically. Yeah. Something happened to them, and they are going insane. People who were fighting against the communist government in '89. There are really many people who were active in dissent, anti-communist dissent before the year '89. Are today representatives of the worst extremist political forces in the Republic. Cardinal of the Catholic Church, who used to be in the prison before the year '89 for political opinion, is today fighting side by side with the first pro-Russian forces in the Czech Republic. What happened to the people? That's one of things I try to think about. I don't know if Johanna has some opinion about what happened what happened with the society. Is it only the information? It can't be only the disinformation. The disinformation definitely helps to profound this deformation of the society. But what else? What happened?
I think as a journalist, some years ago, when there were just professional media outlets, there was an ethical rules and some other rules, and it was a professional way how to give to public all the news and the other things. But yes, the internet, social media, and the websites like Sputnik and the other, and the emails, it's possible to say everything. When outside is a light, you can say, no, it's night and nothing happens. So, and the infection, I think it is something like the infection, it is from this side, from the Russian side, from the information that there is no way how to say, yes, this is normal media with rules, you know who owns it and everything about it, and this website, it's who writes the news. No one knows. But, of course, your first question was very important. Where is the line? I think that, of course, the freedom of speech is one of the most important things we have. But the freedom ends where the crime starts. And I think we have to say these people are criminals. Cooperation with the Russia, with the criminal state is a crime. And I expect from my state, from my country and my government to defend us from the criminals. So it's the same thing as a stealing or every crime we have. But it is not a censorship, it's normal rule. So that's what I think.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. What is also important is to publish truthful information about development in the world. And one of the people who is very active on this field and very good, I follow his tweet every day, is Andrej Fiskovec, who is very strong on social media, informing every single day about what's happening in Ukraine, what is happening on the front line, what's the news with the Russian aggression. And he's Belarusian. Oh, sorry, Belarus.
It's okay. I feel more like a Czech than Belarusian.
Okay, so he is Belarus Czech. He is very much welcome by us to live with us in the Czech Republic. Regardless, all of us would wish Belarus freedom, and we are very sorry they didn't have the same chances as Ukrainians do to protect themselves against the Russian influence, because in there that was not a direct invasion, but the reason of defeat of the democratic movement were Russians behind. So I would like also to give floor to Andrej to say us some words.
I like the name of the book, Debatníci, because since 2013, when the Maidan started, I read a lot of not only the Ukrainian but also Russian sources, and then this meme of Vatnik started with this kind of code, because in Russia you have this sorry for my language, shitty code that you put on yourself, and it looks like disgusting. And the first meme with the Vatnik was this one guy with this broken eye. Yeah. So this is when it all started. But I will have a little bit different opinion on criminalization of disinformation, because I believe, and I strongly believe, that the state cannot suppress and criminalize this, let's say, propaganda and disinformation movement, because it doesn't work like that. We saw from many researchers that what works is basically education. What the guys do in Finland with the schools and stuff, it is preparing young people and even older people with some kind of knowledge of how the propaganda works, on how the likes works, and how the manipulation works, and then the people can build themselves a little bit of resilience, in a sense that they can recognize when someone is trying to manipulate with them. And many researchers confirm these findings. I'm in a sense of criminalization, I'm all for let's say investigate and punish those people who take the money from the Russia, who spread disinformation intentionally, because when you cut the source, you cut the floor for all these propagandas. But it has to be complete picture, not only take one measure and then another. It has to be complete and prepared, and it will take years before you will create resilient society in Finland or Estonia or even Denmark. But it doesn't mean that we won't vote for extremists in some sense, in some far right groups or far left groups. But there has to be some kind of cohesion between the society, that we will have some fundamental agreements of who the enemy is, who let's say the competition is, and we don't have this in Czechia, for example. If we can take a look at what does the most, let's say, powerful party that probably will win the election says, that basically they cannot even agree with the government that we need to let's say proclaim that Russia is a threat, because many of his voters are in a sense brainwashed, but I wouldn't say brainwashed, but more manipulated by all the propaganda and disinformation. So even this party who in its leader, who basically claims he's pro-Western, cannot proclaim Russia as a threat. So when you have no cohesion in the society, you end up like Slovakia or Hungary, and then the government basically can do whatever it wants, even face to face to war. They can say that Russia is not threat at all. So yeah, there has to be taken a lot of measures, but and this is no attack on the Minister of Justice, but I think that the government should and could do more, but they did not for some reasons that are not clear to me. But yeah, that's the situation right now.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
This is a very difficult question, what to do, because
Yes.
that's what we don't agree upon. Even you said that you are against criminalization of lies and propaganda. Regardless, we are in kind of a war with Russia. It's not an open war, but Russia declared us as an enemy. So we are de facto in certain type of conflict with Russia. So,
sorry for interfering, but I think that we need to really acknowledge that this is a war. And we don't fully appreciate, and again, I know it because I'm an investor in modern technologies, that currently Russia uses AI to train language models to produce the disinformation. So I think that one thing is the philosophical level, and the other is the practical level, and it's just getting worse and worse. So I think that there are good role models, especially Baltic countries, where they actually take proactive measures. And one of them is actually having the major social media platforms obligation to publish the source of the information, because and I will then finish. There are several companies that fight online misinformation, and I saw a case study how you can track information. Was case study on the Romanian presidential election manipulation, and I think that we need as a state to really kind of be up to speed with what's going on with AI, especially in this area. So it's not about criminalizing those who are spreading the information, but making sure that we identify the source or sources in time. And second, that the state is actually equipped to produce automatically counter-narratives to mitigate the impact. So I think that it needs to be kind of like that we need to have it systemized and stop talking about just the philosophical level, freedom of speech, etc. Because it will not help us, in my opinion. And I'm very happy, by the way, that Eva Decroix has become the Minister of Justice. Hopefully, she will stay after the elections, because it was, sorry to say, from the current coalition, it was actually the ODS that tend to have the most problems with approaching the disinformation warfare in a systematic manner. And I don't want to be unfair, but yeah, so it's just my comment.
Can I think to go out of what others want to doesn't want. I think the problem is more general. I think there is a part of the population having problem already with the term of propaganda, because of our last regime. Part of the population, when they hear propaganda, they already think that again they will be obliged to think something as before. So, and I think this is something, okay, mainly part of the ODS, because the freedom is something really in the foundation. But today, and I completely agree with you and with you as well, I spent like at least 1 year of my mandate to discuss with everybody on international level, on national level, what we have to do. Because if I want to do justice and international relations, what was my main areas as deputy, you may not do anything if you face on every step Russian propaganda. The thing is that what we tried to do, it was Stratcom, state Stratcom. Perfect. We already succeeded to open it. Let's be frank, it didn't work. We were not able to have the result as we thought we will have. There may be many reasons. After we try to speak how we have to regulate the content of the social media. We cannot regulate it only on national level if everything is coming from abroad. So after, we have to go to the European Union, or maybe on more general, really a global level, and to think about, is it possible that everybody from Russia, from all other countries may open accounts active here on Facebook, on TikTok, on Instagram, here in Czech Republic? Today there was published, or today, article on Neovlivni that there is 5% of the whole media production addressing more than 600 people every day based on Russian propaganda. It's incredible. And every month there is 4,000 articles from Russian propaganda. Okay, the sources of this analysis will be in the article. I will not say this. After you have the classical media, even if you will write the whole day, a whole night, you are not able to write 4,000 articles per month. So we are still like behind, even if we try to face the Russian propaganda. We are not so quick, we are not so good, we don't use AI, we don't use everything we may do so after, and I'm very pro-freedom, very open, I'm very liberal. It's why I said at the beginning that one of the measures I think we will have to think about at one point to close these sources. If we are able to analyze all these sources as source of the Russian propaganda, is there any reason why it's completely we leave the space completely open to share and spread this information. If we know, Johanna, she said it, if we know that we have to defend ourselves because these articles, they are part of the war, it's not discussion. I'm able to discuss with everybody, even with the man who's very brute with me, but I'm in the war. I cannot open all the frontier on the barrier, leave the Russian guys to take my space. They're taking my space as politician, as Czech journalist, as Czech people, and after I'm in very difficult situation on the global network because I have only this part and the rest is already taken up.
Maybe just one comment. You don't necessarily need the cooperation of the, let's say, the network owners. And I'll give you an example of this, let's say, disinformation tool identifier, because let's say one of the customers is actually big South Asian government. They're kind of like Center for Strategic Communication, something what Google Mr. Foldina, or not Foldina, 14.
Oh. It's not the same guy.
And basically what they do, how this works, that they track everything what is on social media. They track the sources and let's say the narratives. And if there is anything which is statistically significant, they basically inform the client, which is in this case Japanese government, and they say this is what we see. This is basically the kind of the addresses from which the information is appearing. And the narratives are basically the same. This is what we propose as a countermeasure. First, what they say, if they see both accounts, they actually notify Facebook, etc. And if there is significance, Facebook will actually take down these accounts because they don't want to actually run the risk of being exposed from their PR purposes. And second, the tool actually automatically says, this is how we, this is kind of like our post, how we want to tackle it. So it actually does not require, obviously it would be nice to have like European-wide cooperation, but we all know that this is difficult. But such tools already exist, and with the proper, I don't know, organization on the state level, it can be done. And again, I don't want to mention specific, let's say, details. I discussed it. We have actually cyber attaché. We are one of the few countries that have cyber attaché in Tel Aviv. And he said, it's wonderful. I discussed it with our Minister of Interior, and they said, oh, the cost is $50,000 a year, which is peanut for state budget. And we don't have it in budget. And I asked him, well, don't you want to escalate it to, I don't know, Mr. Poyar? And he told me like, well, you probably know Mr. Poyar's opinion on disinformation. So I said, what I wanted to say, that there are tools, and it would be great if there is someone who seriously, let's say, investigate this, because it can be done without international coordination.
Mr. Poyar is a security advisor of our government. To explain it to our foreign guests, who is reluctant about fighting disinformation, just for...
Yeah. Yes. Who said that he does not know how to recognize disinformation.
Okay. Well, yeah, I just wanted to... I just wanted to add a comment to what Ms. Decroix was talking about, because when we are talking now about propaganda and disinformation, it's very important to distinguish these concepts. They are not the same, because propaganda often tries to convince you that one side is correct and that this is how you should also view the world. Disinformation very often has a very other objective, which is to spread lies through what Pekka also refers to in the book as the fire hose of falsehood. So let me give you a brief example. When Sergei Skripal, a former GRU officer, they tried to assassinate him in Salisbury 5-6 years ago. The Russian disinformation machine surrounding what happened there, we mentioned this in the book as well, Cambridge researchers, they identified 23 different narratives that were being pumped out by the Internet Research Agency, Prigozhin's old troll factory, right? So these were wildly contradictory narratives, like Iranians did it, it couldn't have been Novichok, the poison they used, and it was the British themselves, and they were these wildly contradicting narratives. And the aim was not to convince you, believe this one or this one. The aim was to make you so overwhelmed that you just eventually tune out and say, this is too much for me. I can't handle this, I'm gonna watch the soccer, the football match instead. So this is a very important distinction that we need to work with when it comes to these tactical lies that the Russians are spreading, vranyo as they call it. And I also just want to add that Mark Galeotti, a famous British historian, he says, and I quite agree with him on this, we are very lucky that the Russians are only spending the few billion they have spent on disinformation, because they have gotten so infinitely much more value, bang for their buck, when it comes to their online war than, for example, their failing war in Ukraine. So we need to realize this and really step up our investment. And I know Pekka has also talked about this extensively, how to really up the funding and take it seriously.
Should I? Okay, so I've been listening this discussion, and I thought I would talk about something that's actually not in the book. So, why is all this working so well in Western European liberal democracies? One of the reasons is, well, first of all, Russia and Soviet Union, they have a long history of studying psychology, how the human mind works, how going to be affect people's en masse. But also, most of these problems that they are promoting online are created actually by Russia. So if you go back to 2015, we go to the civil war in Syria. Russia was very active there. They created an immigration wave to Europe. Then at the same time, Belarus was already flying in immigrants from Iraq, from Somalia, and they were pushing them towards Europe. And then they took this immigration and made it the biggest problem in Europe online, so that people started talking about, okay, there was this bloc who were pro-immigration, and then there's the anti-immigration, and Russia was kind of stoking that fire, provoking that discussion, and it became, in the last 10 years, probably the most controversial discussion point in every European country, and it's still ongoing, and it's still decisive in elections. You look at AfD in Germany, they're mainly building their narratives around immigration. Same thing in France. Hungary, Orban has for a long time has been talking about immigration and so on. Another problem that they have created, okay, they didn't create COVID, that was also another problem, but they created a lot of conspiracy theories and promoted a lot of conspiracy theories around COVID. And then the full-scale invasion started. A big portion of these conspiracy theories suddenly became pro-Russia because they shared the same information space. Those COVID conspiracy theories, they were in the same information bubble than the pro-Kremlin, the so-called decadent West or traditional Russia or conservative Russia. So they shared these ideas, and suddenly, and once the full-scale war started, they jumped to this pro-Kremlin bloc. Inflation, all these energy prices going up. I assume that you have higher energy prices in Czech Republic now than before the full-scale invasion. All this is because of Russia. Because Russia is waging war in Europe, prices are going up, energy prices are going up, and they are using these narratives to promote populist parties around Europe. This happened in Romania, in multiple countries. So this is basically, Russia creates problems, and then they create discussion around this or arguments around these topics in the digital space. And this is how they operate now, and this is why they are so effective, and this is why the populist parties around Europe are becoming so popular, because they offer simple solutions to extremely complex problems. Okay.
Can I?
Of course. Go on.
Because now you described the problem. Do you have the solution?
Good. That's what I was about to ask, because on one hand, propaganda existed always. You know, you had, trade unions house in Odessa is Plivice, maybe, you know, German minority in Czechoslovakia, today a Russian minority in Donetsk region or Luhansk. So, and all the lies spreading around. It was what was here in the 30s, definitely, but not only the 30s, all the time of the Cold War. All the time of the Cold War. I was 26 when the Cold War finished, and so till my 26 years of age, I was target of daily newspaper, but practically only lies and propaganda. So this is nothing new. What might be new are the methods, as you mentioned, because today you have social networks. It didn't exist. Because when we read before the year 89, when we read newspaper about politics, it was pretty simple. So we said, okay, they say it's white. Okay, it's very probably black. But today there's a new strategy. You have 23 explanations what happened. So nobody believes in anything. And a lot of other things that are being used as new methods how to influence public opinion, you know, thinking of people and so on. And now the question is, propaganda was new always. The methods are new. Do we have tools how to deal with that?
Yes. That's the very brief answer. No, but to address your point, I would say if you actually look at Finland and Denmark and our Scandinavian brotherly, sisterly countries that we love and hate, on and off, Sweden and Norway, well, there's a lot of resilience towards this information. I mean, all the Vatnik narratives are very weak in Denmark compared to other places. You have very little political representation for these point of views because they're just not sticking in the population. So why is that? Well, one reason is, of course, because Russia has no strong cultural influence in our countries and no real cultural claims. There are no Russians being ethnically persecuted. That would be ridiculous, even for the Kremlin standards, right, in Denmark.
Finland there, right?
Yeah, they claim, so they say. But I would say there's also another reason, and that is that we still have a comparatively high trust in our institutions, in our government, in our media, in our academia, and that also has to do with the Danish welfare state, I believe. I mean, because there is a material reality still providing people with good public health care, good education and so on, there is still the material reality that is kind of an antidote, because a lot of this is fueled by disillusionment, people feeling left behind by the system. They are the easiest targets for Russian hunting grounds, people dissatisfied with the current system looking for an alternative. So I would say that's part of the reason why we are resilient in the Nordic countries, at least in my view.
Can I? Sorry.
No.
Just a short reaction.
Please.
I completely agree. But please don't forget that we spent 40 years under the communist institution, a communist state. So the majority of the population has no trust in the institution and no trust in the state. And this is very difficult to build it. When on one part you have this testimony, this part of our history, and on other side you have every day this really flood of the propaganda, disinformation, and everyday destabilization of the institution. Meaning, I think we spent like 10 or 15 years after the revolution trying to build the trust in the institution, but today you may not to start the war against disinformation or Russian propaganda on the fact that the people will trust institutions, because it's not the reality. It's not the reality. And the second solution, education, I completely agree. But it will take 2 generations. We do not have 2 generations in this war. So this why I agree, but this is long-term solution. But on the other side, we need to have some kind of reaction today, because otherwise it might be too late. We are in the center of the Europe. I don't want to be pathetic, but we have already this experience.
And I of course completely agree that the starting point for Czechia is totally incomparable with Denmark, for example, because you have 40 years of oppression and so on. You have a long history, but still I think that if you want to try to work towards the solutions, you have to kind of reach people with a positive, inspiring message of, even though I'm well aware that it's much easier said than done by a Danish tourist here in Prague.
Maybe I will add a few things, because not only Czechia was the part of the communist regime, it was also like Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, and there is a lot of trust, especially in Estonia, to the government. What we should have done and we didn't after the change of the government is the fact that we did not establish like the proper strategic communication, in a sense that we can speak about Estonia, for example. There is like a lot of branches of government that communicate with each other, and then they have a team that basically presents the results, and it doesn't have to be like a politician who speaks for the government. It can be like some kind of like I don't know, like officer or someone who basically has no like political affiliation in a way, but they gather all the information and they basically say the citizens what the government does, why it does it, what effects it will have, and what should they expect. And in this regard, we in Czechia don't have such thing, because like the branches of the government do not communicate with each other. There is not a lot of sharing of the information, and there is not like a public figure with a lot of trustworthy that can like present the results. So basically it could, like, we could have done this. Like it was not like the rocket science in a way. We can just go to the Tallinn and ask the guys how we should like create the proper strategic communication. We didn't do that. Like, and that's, I wouldn't say it's the reason why we are in such a trouble as a society, but it can definitely could have helped. But yeah, there is no short-term solution for this. Like there should have been a lot of pain, in a sense of that we should like try to create things, try to, let's say, approach the citizens in a way, but yeah, it won't be done with the next government, so we will be in deeper trouble in 4 years.
And the elections are next week, huh?
Yeah, but I'm a realist in a sense, so it will be really difficult to clear or clean all the mess that will be done. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's a old saying that the best time to plant an apple tree was 30 years ago. The second best is today. So I think when you're saying that it takes ages, I think it's still worth thriving for in the future. But the short-term solution, there is one. It's very simple. It's censorship. It's closing down social media. It is the nuclear option. Nobody wants to go there. I really don't support it. But if your country is in a situation that you cannot handle the mass of disinformation coming from other countries, then you have to take dramatic measures. Nobody's going to like it. And I really don't condone censorship. But if you are already in this kind of situation, then the situation is extremely bad. But also, the solution for all this is actually education. It's media literacy, critical thinking, and it needs to start young. In Finland, we start in preschool. For 6 years old, we teach, okay, what happens when you lie? What are the consequences? And then you build on top of that. How do you check what source is reliable? So on. And of course, it takes, if you start it today, it takes 15 years before you see the first results. But this is something that if you want to have a long-term solution, this is the way to go. There are, short-term solution is probably the censorship or regulation or whatever fancy word you want to use for censorship. That's it. Mid-term solutions, there are also many. You can fund technologies, you can fund companies, you can fund universities that do automatic analysis, network analysis, that you can get reports. Okay, this massive campaign is probably coming from China, North Korea, so you have good information, good intel on what's happening in the information space, because not all of it is coming from abroad. A lot of it also could be domestic. But there are solutions. But yeah, sure, there are not like quick wins in this. And the problem, of course, is that in most European countries, you have the election cycle of 4 years. And then once you do something, it takes 4 years. And then the opposition comes to power and they kind of dismantle all that. But it's, I mean, I'm not condoning for dictatorship, but I mean, it is a challenge. It is a big challenge.
Yeah, perhaps our next challenge would be to make a Vatnik soup for kindergartners as a little educational book. That could be. But let me just quickly add also to what Pekka is saying, that censorship is often formulated as this binary: either you don't censor anything, or you are just totally draconic North Korean, nothing gets out. So there are also variations, nuances to this. For example, in Moldova, which I have visited, they have cut off access to Sputnik, Russia Today, and so on, as sort of like a self-defense measure. I spoke to the head of the Moldovan press union. She told me, we have to do this. It's an emergency. The Russian disinformation is like water torture, just dripping us and driving us insane day after day. So in a lot of EU countries, we have already imposed strict limits on broadcasting, for instance, with the worst of the Russian propaganda, Sputnik, Russia Today, and so on. But of course, the problem is the social media giants. And now with the added problem of not wanting to irritate Donald Trump and his friends who own the social media, right? So there's a regulation challenge there as well.
And even this, like in Europe, EU, we already have censorship. We are censoring RT and Sputnik, which I personally think it's stupid, because I've never been to those sites by myself, and I don't think most people get their Russian propaganda from those sites. It's more often it's a process called information laundering, where these narratives that are on these websites are being promoted by large social media accounts that have millions of followers. It could be MAGA, it could be, I don't know, French far-right figures, or Tommy Robinson from the UK, or Elon Musk. So these people have much more influence than RT or Sputnik ever will. And that's the biggest problem here.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. If I may, I was basically saying that now the war, basically whether Russia will disintegrate economically first before we implode as a Western society first. So I think that's facts. It will not be. It will get only worse. This information warfare, because of the technology. You can fake text, video, voice. It's just. I mean, they have a manufacturer, basically factories for spreading the disinformation. You can identify the source. And if you identify the source and you have multiple, you can actually force the Facebooks and the media platform to actually take it down. If you have the evidence, you can collect the evidence. This is like what I wanted to say. Second, regarding the public trust, this is basically what I believe Russia is basically attacking. The disintegration, and the people don't, as you said, don't know where is the truth, so they will basically unplug from the political thing and will not care. So, but I think that the positive side is that there is still, I mean, we have like almost everywhere, it's like 50-50 split. 50 are those who vote for the classic democratic parties, 50 for the post-populist. So I think that the former part, the democratic, will have certain sympathy that this is a war and you need to do something, otherwise it will get only worse. And I think that you probably heard about this paradox from, I think, Popper, the philosopher, the paradox of tolerance, that if you are tolerant to intolerant people, you actually end up with intolerant society. So I think that there are tools, and I just basically think that, as you said, I mean, there are certain things that maybe could have been done better, but okay, this is water under the bridge. We cannot change the past. We can change the future. Maybe if the current coalition is still in power in 14 days from now, then if they can seriously, something can be done. Sorry.
Yeah. Just adding to that point, and also what Pekka was saying, we described this process of information laundering as well in the book, so you can read more about it in the book. A little plug there. But basically, whenever the media, also here in Czechia, report, what Dmitry Peskov said yesterday, the next lie, right? The Kremlin claps their little hands because they managed to inject one of their lies into the mainstream. And they use this notion of objectivity, of classical media feeling obliged to mention both sides of the story, regardless whether we know that one side is a demonstrative lie. So every time that happens, they are joyous because then they have their point of view presented within a respectable legacy media. And they don't care if 90% of the people who read it then think, okay, the Russians, they're full of shit. Because then perhaps 10% read it and think, okay, maybe it's being reported here, maybe there's something to this. And then they've already started, honey trapping the next generation. So this form of information laundering is a very dangerous way. And legacy media is a bit complicit there, I would say, as well. So, yeah.
Well,
not you specifically.
I think it's a very hard theme because, I hear it, or I've heard it all 10 years since our Forum 24 was funded, because it was funded because of Andrej Babiš when he bought the media in the Czech Republic. And day after day, somebody told me, well, don't speak about him, you help him. But I have to say it's impossible for normal media to choose someone and don't speak about him. Of course, I completely agree. When we write what Dmitry Peskov says, well, yes, we help to spread what he said. But our readers expect that we will inform them about Russia. So I don't know how to do this because, and of course, when every media in the Czech Republic do it, it's possible. But when just one of them do it, you just don't have the article.
Maybe just short addition to that is that a lot of this stuff also sells papers. In Finland, there was a study done by Ukrainians. There's 2 tabloid magazines in Finland, and those 2 combined, Putin's face was on the cover on 200 times, over 200 times. So basically, every other day, Putin was on a cover of those magazines because it sells magazines. It sells, and people are interested in this. So, of course, it's also a matter of that.
Yeah, of course, because we are one of the 10th most read website in the Czech Republic. And yes, there are 2 themes which people read every time. Russia and Ukraine and Andrej Babiš.
Yeah.
Is there a question from the audience, please? If you have, don't hesitate to raise your hand.
I have translated article on Internet Research Agency back in 2018, and I have learned that Russian makes this on industrial scale. There were about 1,000 employees, and each has to produce about 4 contributions to social media a day. And I wonder if it would be possible to use artificial intelligence to analyze disinformation and to scrap it or whatever, just automatically. There is,
Sorry. Go ahead.
I just want to call your attention to a book or essay by Stanislav Schulz on social media. He won award for this, and there is quite pessimistic outcome of this essay, that the world won't be ever same as it was before the social media impact on the society. And the basic sentence which he cites is, it is probably not true, but it might be. And that's how the disinformers operate.
I will add a quick comment. You say the article was from 2018, right? So unfortunately, the situation you described back then is probably 100 times worse now because of the AI boom. I've seen some of those, maybe you've seen them as well, videos of hidden footages from Chinese bot factories, but it's the same with all countries employing these, where you have like these monitors with maybe 50 phones all plugged into one server hub, and then they're just automatically logging in and out of new profiles, posting content, logging into the next one. It's like 24/7. So it's not even people having to, hey, I am Kate from Texas and I'm Christian, very much hate the Ukraine. It's not these profiles that are filling up the air now. It's way worse. So the problem has only magnified. But Pekka is the real AI expert here, so I'll let him comment as well.
So yeah, I think if you look at the timeline of troll and bot factories, it all started in Russia around 2012, when 2012-2013, when the Internet Research Agency was founded by Yevgeny Prigozhin. And as you said, back then it was mostly like journalists or young people who were looking for a job, and they were writing online commentary. There was only one rule: never say bad things about Putin, and other stuff everything was allowed. At some point, other countries started copying this model, and Russia also exported this model to African countries like Nigeria and Ghana. So there's a lot of troll factories and bot factories in those countries too. But as Morten said, all this has largely been automized now. So everything is AI-based systems that can post thousands and thousands of posts every hour or so. And it's basically has become a competition of who has the most powerful systems, AI systems. China is very good in this. Russia is using Chinese and American systems. America has their own systems. But I think the bottom line here is with social media is that it's no longer real. For a while it has not been real. Anything you see on social media outside your own personal little bubble with your family and friends is not real. And it's basically all these big stories that you see, there's some kind of manipulation usually going on. It could be advertisement for a new song or movie, but also it could be elections in Czechia, or for example. It's all automated by AI. And that's why we have to be very skeptical when we go online. When we see something big happening on social media, a lot of that is just fake.
Another question. How do you think that, what are the ways to influence people? Because definitely there are people that are totally brainwashed and there is no way to change their opinion. Definitely. It's reality and it always happens. But then you have, and I would say that it's 15 to 20 people. If you look at the elections in the Czech Republic after the year 1992, the combination of communists and extreme right party, previously it was so-called Republican Association or party. Today it has a different name, but the same blood group. So it was always about the sum of both of them, about 15-20%. I think there is very low chance to change their opinion. You can push it to 15, but you can't. It will never be 8%, in my opinion. But then there is, I don't know, 30-40% of people who are somewhere in between, whom you could explain that things are a bit more difficult, that the state is functioning regardless of some difficulties, that there are many improvements in the society, then these things are lies, that Russia is aggressor, the Soviet Union didn't liberate Czechoslovakia, no, that it was a new occupation. What are the ways in social media with new technologies how to influence them? Because there should be a competition, because they are fighting with these tools. How can the other side compete with that? Is it only showing and analyzing the lies, or is it also some positive propaganda? Let's call it propaganda or publicity, however you want to call it. Or what do you think that are the ways how to gain some chunk of these 30 to 40% who are somehow in the middle?
I think Morten already talked about this idea of trust, creating a high trust environment or society where people generally trust politicians, journalists, army, police also, of course. I think this is something that's very, very crucial, because the Russian style of disinformation, fire hose of falsehood, works very well in a low trust environment where people don't trust journalists, politicians, and once you start using this strategy, it also lowers the trust in general. I think this is something that is crucial in my view, but also. Finnish people, we don't really like to say good things about our country, but I will try now. So Finland, I think for the 6th or 7th time, we are the happiest country in the world. According to some poll, I don't know how it's determined, but I think this general happiness is a good vaccine against foreign influence, because when people are not looking, of course, there are societal problems, but these are discussed openly and in this kind of high trust environment. I think that's very crucial, kind of trying to increase happiness and reducing polarization within the society. Russia wants to polarize societies. They want to divide us, because once we are doing infighting, our foreign policy becomes extremely weak. One good example of this is the United States. They were fighting for 6 months over the south border, and during that 6 months, the military aid to Ukraine was stalled. No military aid was sent to Ukraine, and this was a jackpot for Russia. And this is exactly what they want. They want us fighting within our countries so that we are weaker in our foreign policy and in our determination to help defend Ukraine. And this is why they do it, basically. They want less support for Ukraine right now. Of course, there are other long-term strategies also, but this is the main goal right now. I forgot what I was saying, but I'll just conclude here.
Okay, I will add to what Pekka was saying, because, or maybe rather comment on your point before, because I do agree with you that there will always be a certain percentile. We can say whether it's 8 or 10 or 15, whatever, who are simply beyond reach, who will never. It's great weather today. No, it's not. It's raining. No, it's not. But yeah, it's raining. Like, you cannot reach these people no matter what. And where I might differ slightly from your point is that I would say This number, however, is not static, and algorithms, has definitely accentuated and made this problem worse, because people who were maybe before just prone towards a little skepticism are being dragged into these rabbit holes now by algorithms, exposing them to conspiracy theories, Russian disinformation, so on, the whole package. So, but I do agree that the 30 to 40% that are still voting for what are they called, ANO, PNO, the extremists here. Well, yeah, but those are the people who are actually interesting to reach. How do we pull them out of the clutches of madness, so to speak? I would say give your friends who are in danger of becoming one of those an example of Vaťácký vývar, if I'm saying that correctly. So that might be a start.
Now I remember. I'll be very brief. Sorry. So I see this kind of like, there's this small population that are beyond saving. It's like a zombie infection. You cannot, once they become zombie, it's very difficult to treat them.
Yeah.
But there is an interesting study from 2017, which basically, it was about conspiracy theories, but it's very closely related to all this, because Russia also uses a lot of conspiracy theories. And there were two main attributes that create a conspiracy theorist. And that was anxiety against the society. I'm feeling general anxiety because of what's happening around them. And the second thing was disenfranchisement, which means that basically they feel like they don't have any power within the society. Whatever they do, it doesn't really change anything. Even if they vote, it doesn't change anything. Even if they become activists or whatever, they feel like they don't make a difference. And I think fixing this would be a good start. And I've been writing about this before, and I think especially young men are in high danger of becoming radicalized and marginalized within the society. And I think this is a group that we should be focusing more on. And I say this because I've been once that young person who was at the kind of very close to becoming radicalized.
Interesting. Thank you. Openness.
If I may have one comment. First, what I said, I can also do automated AI generative counter narratives. So you can actually, because I would say the advantage of live is that it's always faster and you are always like late in responding. So this can be also automated, and such solution exists. And second, and again, we see it actually in the election campaign. You have actually very good influencers. I mean, in the past, there were actors, singers, etc. But now you have actually very good influencers who, from their affinity to certain political direction, can either cause great harm or actually good. So I think that working strategically with those people who are actually proactively wanting to help is great. So I think that on the positive side, I think that we can do something about that, about what's going on. Unfortunately, I think that it's worse in the Czech Republic than in Finland or Denmark, because we are notoric complainers and half glass empty. So we are much more we are much more prone to be affected by the how we call it, bad moves.
It's good observation. Okay. So, any comment to this remark?
Well, then it's a good thing you don't have to experience a Danish or, God forbid, a Finnish winter. Then
well,
your mood would.
I was studying for 1.5 years in Denmark.
Oh, okay.
So I know the sunset at 3:30 p.m.
Yeah,
You're the lucky ones. 3:30.
It's pretty late.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. What there is also one part of the story which is interesting is the history. When we are in the Czech Republic, and when I'm speaking about the Czech Republic, because one would say that the historical experience should influence a lot opinion of the people. And I think one positive example is Poland. because in Poland they fight each other like dogs. But they are clear about one thing: Russia is the enemy. Russia is the danger for us. What happened? That the people in Hungary, Czech Republic, and Slovakia don't feel something very similar. I understand that the experience of Poland was worse, but still, experience of Czechoslovakia at the time and Hungary was pretty bad with Russians, with Soviets. But the Soviet Union, it was one of the forms of Russian imperialism. So I think the people should know it. Majority of them does. So why is Finland, with a very similar, not very similar, but to a certain extent similar experience, being occupied by Russians, being attacked by Russians and so on, why do you think it doesn't exist there, or is very weak? It doesn't exist in Poland, it doesn't exist in Baltic states, and it does exist very strongly, extremely strongly in Slovakia. And Slovakia is really very strong. In Hungary, I don't know that much. I don't understand Hungarian, I don't read Hungarian newspaper, so I don't think they are so much pro-Russian. I think it's much more Orban's politics, but they are not so much against Orban's politics. We will see next year, but he has a long-term support. And to surprisingly high level in the Czech Republic. Where do you think these differences come from?
What do you define by high level? Because I think there are two things. On one part, you have political division, and on second part, you have a support of pro-Ukraine opinion. And I think that the majority of the Czech population is still anti-Russian and pro-Ukraine. It's possible that you will not see this in the election because the people, they are so manipulated what the opposition says today, what is their political program. But I think that if you will go out, the majority of the Czech population is still aware of this Russian oppression. And I think the answer is after how it's possible that we don't see it on a political battle. But I'm sorry,
Yes, you said you have to go sooner.
I wanted to make like last word. Thank you for the discussion. It's very interesting. I would really be happy to have now the answer and the conclusion. Thank you for the book. I will share it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good luck next week.
Really.
So, go ahead.
Yeah. So I just actually, as a final remark on what Ms. Decroix was saying, I would say that actually look at Georgia. That's a very similar example, very parallel to what she's commenting on regarding the Czech Republic, because the situation there is actually that you have, I would say, overtly pro-Russian government in the Georgian Dream, backed by a Russian-funded oligarch, Vitsina Isvanishvili, who we also write about in the book. But the Georgian people as a whole, no way do they support Russia. And they very clearly remember what happened in 2008 in Ossetia. Yes, Abkhazia. So I have Georgian friends who have also shown me how the Russian tourists are treated when they come down there, very unpopular. So, yeah. Sure. But just in general, I would say that there's obviously this weird discrepancy can take place where you have a non-pro-Russian population, but you still have a government who's able to navigate outside of that and just say all the right things, but still do de facto Russia's bidding, unfortunately. That might also become the case here in the Czech Republic in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Do you want to expand?
Nah, really not. Like it's for me, it's some kind of schizophrenia, to be honest. When you see all those nations like Hungary, like Georgia, when you have, I have a really big doubts about Hungarians being pro-Russian. Like I believe that Orban is, but the Hungarians, with the experience of 1956, I just cannot accept the fact that they would be pro-Russian. But yeah, you have to experience Russia to be against it, like, because there is a lot of like some kind of a romantic imagination in countries like France and Italy and others, that they still believe in this like literary greats of Russia, like Dostoevsky and stuff. But this is so big nonsense, because many of these like authors basically either flee Russia or were killed or like were in some kind of gulag.
Or were Ukrainian.
Yeah, and many of them were Ukrainians actually. So you have to experience Russia to really like hate it. Yeah.
And also adding to that, the Russians are using this notion of a mysterious Russian soul and Dostoevsky and all that very proactively. You see it right now in Great Britain, where Anna Netrebko is now performing at the Royal Opera. Yeah. Despite her being one of Putin's loyal cronies, having celebrated the occupation of Crimea and so forth, she's now being welcomed in again, right? So Russia is still using this, you could call it cultural laundering, right, of its image. And I mean the Russian regime as it is right now.
Also in these post-Soviet countries like Belarus, for example. Basically, I was quite pro-Russian when I was like teenager, like when I was 14. It was in 2007. Because you know, when you have like education that is mostly based on the fact that big brother of Russia, you basically don't know anything else. So you basically believe the fact that Russia was always behind the Belarus, and nobody mentions that there was like 6 centuries of like battles and wars between like Great Duchy of Lithuania and Russia, and that like Russia committed genocide of Belarusians in the 17th century. Like nobody knows that, and nobody teaches you that. So I have to experience like and to see the first war in Georgia, 2008, to see what is Russia about. And only then all my feelings like towards Russia, like positive feelings, like were completely frozen. Like they were like in some sense deleted. And only in 2008 it was not some kind of like hatred towards Russia, but more like a cautious approach. But after 2013, when I saw what was happening at Maidan, basically it was only the hatred towards Russia. Yeah.
I actually think that we are not Russian, like, I mean, the part of the society that we are talking about, but we are definitely anti-EU, or this part is anti-EU. So I think that, and again, there is actually kind of like 1 month ago, so that you know your context, there is actually a TV documentary that is now in cinemas, where they took 3 people with strong pro-Russian stance and took them to Ukraine. And even though they saw the mass graves, etc., they basically said it's fake. I mean, and they retained their opinions. But their opinion was actually by majority. It's the EU who wants to crush us. Putin is okay, I mean, etc. But their major stance is like it's EU, it's the Green Deal, and all this. And the root cause. I mean, we had 20 years of very anti-EU Czech presidents, and I think that this really impacted, I would say, on sociological level, the moods of the Czech society. So that is why I reckon that Czechs are not that much pro-Russian as they are anti-EU. And if they have to choose, or this part, between the 2 evils, they actually say that Russia is less evil than Brussels. Like my hypothesis.
Yeah, and I think this is also how they operate. You cannot make Poland or Polish people pro-Kremlin. It's impossible. They would rather kill themselves than say that they like Russia. But they can say, Russians will use different strategies. They will say that EU is actually worse. The EU is actually causing all this inflation, all the gas prices are going up. energy prices are going up because of the EU. So you create this kind of anti-EU bloc that basically the current Polish president Nawrocki has been talking shit about the EU. Of course, most EU countries, they will not leave EU, even if these anti-EU people come to power, because many countries rely on EU's funds. But it is still being used as a narrative to polarize the society and so on, because, and the question was why are these things working in some countries and not in others? I think this is one of the crucial things that in some countries, Russia has been able to find the critical points: immigration, anti-EU or pro-EU, this kind of discussion. So they have found these critical points, that can be used to stoke this kind of division in a country, whereas in other countries they haven't been able to do that. Like, for example, in Finland, it's been relatively difficult for them to do this. But one more point, and then I'll conclude, is that ultimately, when you look at elections, it all boils down to very simple things. Can people afford groceries? Can people afford energy? Can they warm up their apartments? Can they afford housing? Do they see a future? If they don't, they usually vote for the other party. And this is, as I said before, a lot of these problems are caused by Russia, and now they are using them to kind of promote populist parties around Europe. And as I said before, populist parties offer a simple solution to complex problems. And my prediction is that once these populist parties come to power, not much will change. I think things will get much worse before they get better in Europe.
And I think there's one more important thing in the Czech society. I agree that it is not as easy as in Slovakia to be pro-Kremlin, but you can be for peace. Of course, everybody is for peace. And you are not for East or West, but we can be the bridge. So I think it's much stronger, those narratives, than to be just pro-Kremlin.
Yeah. Why hate Russia when we can be friends? Or
we can be friends with everybody, and there will be peace, and everybody will be happy.
And they never say peace at what terms, or like they just say we need peace.
Yeah.
Okay, we will see next week how many people are not pro-Russian, but let's say resistance to the fact that Russia definitely is, and Russia disinformation is definitely one of the most important threats to not only Czech Republic but Europe in general in these times. So I don't know if you want to say something for conclusion. Anyhow, after we finish, stay here some minutes. You are welcome to stay here for a moment and discuss with the authors, or let them sign a book for you. For me, it was very important to have this discussion. I hope that many people will see it also on the video we are taking from this event. And as we said at the beginning, this is there are important times everywhere in Europe, but in the Czech Republic now even more, because we have very important days, and many changes will come. Definitely, in any case, there will be changes in the Czech Republic, and I think it's very important that people understand what is behind many informations they get, and about many publicity and opinions and so on that are being spread around in our public discussions. So, and for this understanding, this book is really very important. I'm really happy we had a chance as a publishing house to publish this book in the Czech Republic. I hope it will find readers, and people will know about it and will buy it and will read it and will understand the message. So I would like very much to thank you for coming, for writing the book, and for coming here, and wish you a nice day here. I also would like to thank Johana for coordinating and preparing with us this evening, to Andrej for joining us, and to all of you to participate in this discussion. Thank you and have a nice evening. Stay with us.
Okay.